The transits coming up for the United States are pretty crazy. I mean, we're 2024, it's not even like, this is not even the year, okay? 2025 is when things get going and get kind of crazy. So, you know, if you've been thinking like 2024 has been insane, well, I'm sorry to break it to you, but we're about to enter unprecedented times.
Hello from Amsterdam.
From Brooklyn, New York.
From beautiful Ubud, Bali.
From San Diego.
I am in Iceland right now.
Shanghai.
I'm in Paris at the moment. I am here on my Jupiter descendant line in Tallinn, Estonia.
Hello from Biarritz in France.
Hey there, it's Helena from helenawoods.com, where I teach astrocartography, locational astrology, and how to connect with your cosmic compass. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Kamala Harris's chart and what we can expect, some key dates to look out for with the astrology in 2024. When we compare Donald Trump's chart to Kamala Harris's chart, they are both very strong for this election, and I'm going to share with you why Kamala Harris is going through some big times in her life this year. We're going to be looking at some ancient Hellenistic techniques like zodiacal releasing, annual perfections, and of course her transits. And also, before we get started, I do offer one-on-one private readings, links down below to my readings, as well as all of my courses and my astrology podcast, Cosmic Compass. I just posted a new episode on fate versus free will from an ancient astrological perspective. All of my free resources, astrocartography, newsletter, and my free blog posts, everything is available on my website. All the links are included down below. All right, let's get started with today's video. Here's Kamala Harris's birth chart, and she is a 24 Gemini ascendant. So this is really important because as we get into the election later on in the year, she is going to have activated a Gemini perfected year when she turns 60. So on October 20th of 2024, her birthday, her 60th birthday, she will activate Gemini as well as Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini. Now, Gemini is her first house. Now, what's really interesting is the 12th house is about more behind the scenes things that happen that aren't visible, that aren't prominently seen or known. They're things that are happening undercover behind the scenes, right? Hidden things is the 12th house. Now, this is the year that she's in right now, is this more behind the scenes year. However, when we get into her birthday, she's going to have a first house year. And a first house year is a time of identity, active things happening to you, but also the native taking a lot of action in their life. It's basically the year of you. This happens once every 12 years. You'll have another first house year. This is using annual perfections, which I teach in my Trust Your Timeline course. So you can learn about how to do this in my live class. Now we can see when we look at the transits that she had that Mars-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. That was happening right on her Jupiter. And Jupiter rules her career. She has the 10th house in Pisces, meaning Jupiter is the planet that rules her career. So any Jupiter transits or transits that are affecting her Jupiter are really, really important when we're looking at her career, as well as any transits that are happening in the 10th house of career. Now, that Mars-Uranus conjunction, sudden action, unexpected breakthroughs, unexpected, can be volatile or challenging times that she's going through. That was happening. That was around the time when there was the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. That was during that time that was happening on her Jupiter. Now, though, Mars has entered her first house, and this happened. What's crazy is that the day that Mars entered her first house of like action in her identity and sense of self, Mars is leadership, Mars is courage, Mars is the hero, the warrior, the leader. And it entered her first house of self and identity on the day that Biden stepped down, the day of the full moon. Jupiter is the planet of growth, abundance, expansion, and it typically brings good things to whatever house or area of life it's hitting in someone's life. And so Jupiter is going into Kamala Harris's first house of self. This is all about growth in her life and who she is. All these other houses that we see in this chart have different, they're all different areas of life. Like you could have a transit to your house's siblings or your partner or your parents, or something could be happening to your spouse, but it's not necessarily about you. When we're talking about the first house though, like what's happening here, this is about her. This is not about someone else. This is her. And so with Jupiter transiting in her first house this year, I mean, this is a big breakthrough time for her of like opportunities. We're going to be having a Mars Jupiter conjunction. And this is happening close to her ascendant. It's not exactly on her ascendant, it's about 8 degrees off. So it is quite far apart. A lot of traditional astrologers use a 10-degree orb. So every astrologer has a different set of orbs that they use. But that Mars Jupiter conjunction will be happening within 8 degrees of her ascendant. So I do expect some like bold moves or actions that she's taking that are really known and big and seen. Could be something to do with the country or the US, some statements that she's making. But the other thing I do want to point out is that on October 17th, there's going to be an eclipse, a full moon conjunct the North Node. That's called a lunar eclipse. And this eclipse, this wild card eclipse, this is all going to be happening in October of this year, by the way. October is a wild card month because whatever's going on with the eclipses in October can be a real indicator of what's going to be happening when we get into the election in November. But this eclipses being jarring wild card events, often very difficult. This is happening right on her natal moon at 27 Aries. And this is happening in her 11th house of the following, the fan base, the people that support her. It's also the media, publicity, and it's also communities. So this eclipse is hitting that area of life for her, and it's affecting her moon. And her moon rules her second house of income and money. And so I wonder if there's like, can be a difficult event or something that's challenging that comes up. Also, Saturn is retrograde at this time, and it's going right over her Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. It shows a pain point, a sensitivity, or something that's really triggering or hurtful, and that makes us like not feel good. It's uncomfortable, right? When Saturn's hitting Chiron, it is a hard transit. Now, this has been happening for her. This has been going back and forth over her in her 10th house of career since March of 23, but it's coming exactly back within a degree of that natal Chiron. And so I am thinking that there's something challenging that's coming up for her when we get into mid-October around the lunar eclipse around that Aries lunar eclipse. Now, I also want to pull up her zodiac releasing because zodiac releasing is an ancient Hellenistic timing technique that shows where you are on the hero's journey of your life biography. Now, for Kamala, and I teach all of this in the Trust Your Timeline course. If you want to learn how to do this, you can work with me live in the course. Go really in depth. I break it down for you step by step. Even as a newbie beginner, you'll be able to learn how to do this, and also the people in your life too. When we look at her lot of spirit and her career and overall life direction, she is in a moderate peak period right now on a chapter level, a level 2. And this is until July of 2025. So she is in a really important time in her life, and it started recently this fall. But look at this. This period right here. Now, these mutable time periods in her life are positive for her. A positive major peak from August 4th to September 3rd. So for 1 month, she's going to be in a positive major peak. There's some important stuff happening to her. That's at the same time of that Jupiter-Mars conjunction that's happening in her first house within those 8 degrees of the ascendant. That's happening August 17th. This is all happening at that same time. And look at this. This is also a foreshadowing period. So something is happening to her here. She's making a decision here that's impacting later on when we get into the spring. April to May of 2025, there's something really big, an up level, can be a successful news of something big. It's usually an up level when a loosing of the bond is on a peak period like this. So there's something about that time in August that's foreshadowing or hinting as to what's happening when we get down here. So this is really interesting. I mean, I am curious to see if with this election, do we not find out who's president until way later? Like, is there some, reshuffling or going back with the Mars retrograde that's happening right after the election? Is there some sort of like a winner, but then they redo something, or we don't have a president, or there is some sort of confusion about who won. Or there's the idea of a contingent election, or I also just expect it to be a very tight race with the two of them. They both have very strong charts. And so I wonder if it's a very tight race. Is there something like the Al Gore, Bush scenario where there is some sort of like, it takes a while to find out who won? That could be a scenario that definitely plays out for this election, because this election is going to be a weird one. It's going to be a wild card for sure. But so you can see these plus signs here. These are her peak periods, and these are the major ones. So this major peak, these are major times for her. Now, also look at this. Remember how I mentioned that October 17th day? Remember how I mentioned that lunar eclipse that's happening on her natal moon? Look at this. She's going to be in a loosing of the bond that day on October 17th, 2024. So we're seeing this technique. We're seeing this play out on multiple techniques. And this is what I like to use as an astrologer. I blend multiple techniques to get confirmation. I use the rule of 3 because I want to see multiple things happening in different charts to make sure that something is indeed very clear that something's happening. October 17th, she enters a follow-through period, which can be letting go, change in direction, or something difficult happening that's having her step down, or something happening. That's October 17th on the lunar eclipse. So her challenging periods in life are the fixed signs. So anytime you see a little fixed sign period, that can show a difficult time. According to the zodiac releasing, October 17th to this 22nd is more of a neutral time. It's not a challenging time in her zodiac releasing, but it is on a follow-through period, which means there can be a decision or a pivot or a letting go, a choice that she's making of doing something differently. I don't want to say stepping down, but there's some sort of pivot that's being made around the lunar eclipse on her natal moon, October 17th. So something to keep an eye out for. Now, the big thing that does make me think she has a very strong chance of winning this election, she is in a minor peak period. She's in the peak of her life right now. So Kamala Harris is in the peak of her life and her career. She started it end of 2020, beginning of 2021, and that lasts until 2032. So this makes me think, does she win 2 terms? Is she winning the first term and then getting a second term? Because this is a 12-year peak, and this is the peak of her life. 2020 to 2032 is 12 years of her being in the peak of her career. And she's going to have other peaks coming up, specifically on a chapter level, on a level 2, 2029 and 2030, and then again in 2032. Makes you think, does she win this election and then she's president for 2 terms? I just think she's going to be very busy, very active, and her career work, this is the biggest time of her life with her career, and her contribution is now until 2032. And right now on a chapter level, if we open up this little nesting doll that we have here, that we can open up, one chapter and then open up the paragraph and open up the sentence, we can read her book and see, she's in a major time right now. It's a moderate peak on a level 2, but it is still very important. We talked about the August 14th day. We talked about the day that Biden stepped down, and we also talked about October 17th, the day of the lunar eclipse. Looking at the chart for election day, Saturn's on our Chiron. That's not the easiest thing. Saturn represents delays, stagnation, or a challenge, but it can be a challenge to be overcome. It can be when you put in the hard work and you put in a lot of work in something and you get really good and skilled at something. This can be a time when, there are challenges and delays, but you can overcome it. And so I don't know if she worries about her reputation, or if she it's a sensitive sore spot, like her career or reputation, or being seen in the limelight with her career. But Saturn is putting that kind of hard, stoic kind of energy on that sensitive point. And also what's happening, Jupiter is on her ascendant within 4 degrees. So Jupiter is retrograde though. And that's why, there's so many planets retrograde during this election. I just don't think we're getting a clear answer right now. When Mars goes retrograde, I think there's going to be re-looking at all this, re-looking at the election and who won. But Uranus is also on her natal Jupiter. Now, Uranus Uranus transits are a really big deal, especially when they're transiting over planets in the chart, because they represent unexpected, can be breakthroughs in someone's career. And this is happening on her Jupiter, and her Jupiter rules her 10th house of career. So this is a fascinating, really big once in a lifetime transit that she's currently going through in terms of her career. Jupiter's on her ascendant. This is the house that's lit up for the year. So Jupiter on her ascendant and on her north node. I mean, it's definitely can bring good things or good news. North node is volume up or increase. I think she's really confident. If she is still running at this time, I think she's also extremely confident because Venus is Jupiter squaring her natal Venus, which can be lovely. It's a lovely transit, but it can be like overconfidence or getting really comfortable with something. Her natal Mercury is also just looking at the transits for the rest of November. Pluto's going to go back into Capricorn. That's one of the big things about this election is Pluto going back into Capricorn. I just that's gonna I mean, yeah. Pluto going back into Capricorn makes me think there's something about like going back to the establishment or going back to like the way things have been done for a while. But then it goes back into Aquarius right after the election. So it's like, what's going on? There's like this flip-flop, this changes that are happening. But the thing is, Mars is going to go retrograde at 6 degrees Leo, and she's in a natal Mars return. And then Mars opposing Pluto, it just, God, you know what I think? You know what I think? You know what I think is going to happen? Because this Mars, look at this Mars-Pluto opposition, right? Mars is going to be in Trump's first house of his identity and its sense of self. And it's opposing that Pluto, which is like anger, volatility, getting really freaking angry about something. Like people want answers. And that's going to be retrograde and going back to Trump's Venus, his natal Venus. And his Venus rules his third house and his 10th house of career. So, I mean, I just think there's going to be news coming out around January 6th. Oh my God, January 6th. Oh my God, January 6th is when Mars is going back into Cancer in Trump's 12th house. Okay, I don't know. I just think it's going to be a tight race. That's what I think Kamala has a chance at winning. If she wins, there's something going on with Trump that's not great. And his followers, I mean, again, but like I said in the previous video, Jupiter is transiting through Trump's 11th house, right on his north node and his sun and his Uranus. Mars is going to be going back over to his Venus. It's going to be in his first house. And one of the things that people often get confused with zodiacal releasing is people often think that peaks means something really good. Or like they think that peaks mean something really positive because you think peak and you think like high point in terms of positivity. That's not what it means in zodiacal releasing. Trump is entering the peak period of his life and career, yes, in 2025, but it's in Leo. And he has his malefic in Leo, which can show challenges. There are a lot of challenges in the peak of his career. Both have really strong charts for this election. My prediction, though, is that someone wins, and I wonder if it's Kamala, but then there's this like confusion with this, like the electronics or something with like the voting, or maybe it's so close that neither of them get the 270 electoral votes that are needed to win because it's so tight. And there's this back and forth all of December, all of January, this is just going to be a wild card election. And so stay tuned. Keep your eye out for August 14th, give or take a few days, October 17th, because we might be hearing some big news with Kamala. If Kamala drops out on October 17th around the time of the lunar eclipse, that's going to be crazy, and that's really going to affect the election. That's all I have to say on that. I should also mention that astrologers are not psychic gurus, nor do we have crystal balls, nor do we do magic tricks. The thing is, this election doesn't look like other elections. It looks weird. It looks messy. It looks confusing. It looks like there's some sort of back and forth and redoing something. So I don't know if we have a clear winner. I don't think we have a president that's picked around this time. And if we do get a president that we find out about around the election, November 5th, right? I wonder if there's some sort of looking back at things or redoing something. So something to keep your eye out for. Everything that I've just shared with you, Harris versus Trump's chart, they're both going through some insane, really big, good transits. I think that this is going to be a tight race when it's between the two of them. And I also think, as I've said in other videos, that this election will be unlike other elections. Like, I think there's something about changes at the last moment, or changes, like someone wins, but then there's like this shuffling, this reshuffling in the months after. I think something crazy is about to happen, and I psychically feel that. I know that. I sense that in my gut. I'm a claircognizant. I'm incredibly intuitive. But also just looking at the transits, it looks like a messy, wild, intense election. And so they both have strong chances. And so I'm not going to tell you a prediction of who's going to win. I've been very clear in previous YouTube videos that if it's Biden versus Trump, Trump is winning. I've said that. But with Kamala now, I don't think she's the official nominee yet, but if she becomes the official nominee, who knows? Everything can change at the last minute. We're about to enter, Mercury's about to go retrograde, okay? Like, things can change. If it's the two of them, though, it's going to be a tight race. They both have strong chances, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. All of these techniques that I've used today, I am now teaching in my live astrology timing course, Trust Your Timeline. You can learn how to look at your own peak periods, your challenging periods, all of your transits, read all of this, how to manifest with the moon. All of this I am teaching in my live course. You can check out the details down below in the description. I'll include a link so you can read all about what's included in this course. Doors will be closing August 3rd. So if you want to join the 2024 round with live class call dates on September 1st, 7th, and 14th, live with me, if you want to get all this amazing information so that you too can prepare and amplify the energies in your life by working with the cosmos to better enhance your life using timing techniques, I'm really excited to work with you if your intuition feels it's a fit. All the information down below in the description. Again, doors will be closing August 3rd. Now, I do want to say this. The divisiveness in the world, in the US, the emotional reactivity in the comments that I've been seeing on my videos lately, to be honest, it makes me not want to make future videos talking about world predictions. And if I'm being honest with myself, mundane astrology, which is the astrology of world events and politics and things that are happening to the world at large, these are topics that do not spark joy within me. I am much more interested in helping people with their lives, personal development work, helping people connect with their authentic selves, and also helping people create magical lives for themselves in places that they love using astrocartography. And so for this reason, I'm not going to be making any more world prediction videos or political commentary or not even commentary. I don't share any of my opinions, nor do I let my personal thoughts on any of this color what I'm seeing in the astrology. And I do not watch astrologers or tarot readers who have a very strong bias when they're interpreting and using their gifts. I believe that you need to separate the transits from your own emotional bias. And I think as a good astrologer, as a good tarot reader, you need to be able to separate, to have an objective, clear channel so that you can read things clearly and have that perspective. I think that if you're going into a tarot reading or an astrology reading with extreme bias and extreme emotional reactivity, I just think you're going to be swayed and you're not going to be seeing what's there. You're going to be seeing what you want to see. And as an astrologer, when I take the time to look at charts, I put my opinions away and I look at the chart and I be a translator. I'm a messenger. I share what I see. There's no there's no opinions coloring my predictions or what I'm seeing. So something to note, because I get people all the time saying or thinking that they know who I'm voting for or what I believe. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you wanted to follow me over on Instagram, I'm at Ms. Helena Woods, and you can also check out my blog, my courses, and definitely enroll and trust your timeline if you want to learn how I did all of this that I just shared with you in the video. Doors will be closing August 3rd. So if you wanted to join the class live, because doors will close, I only run this class for limited times, and I only have live calls only twice a year. So if you did want to learn all this, check out the information in the description down below. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.